Hey everyone, welcome back. So glad you're here with us today. Emily and I have something really fun and practical for you. We're going to talk about planning and enjoying a trip with your girlfriend, boyfriend, or partner. And this is perfect because travel is one of those situations where you use so much everyday English. You're talking about plans, making decisions together, discussing what you want to do, where you want to go, what you want to eat. It's all very natural conversation, the kind of English you actually need in real life. And the cool thing is, these phrases work whether you're planning a weekend getaway or a big international vacation. So if you're in a relationship or you just want to learn how couples talk to each other in English, this is for you. Ready, Emily?
Yeah, absolutely ready, Joe. And I love this topic because it's so relatable. Most people have been on a trip with their partner or want to go on one. And the conversations that happen when you're planning a trip together are really interesting because you're negotiating, compromising, getting excited, maybe disagreeing a little bit. It's real, authentic English. And we're going to give you the exact phrases that couples use in these situations. Not formal textbook English, but the casual, natural way people actually talk to each other. We'll cover everything from the initial idea of taking a trip to planning the details to actually being on the trip and enjoying it together. Sound good?
Sounds perfect. So let's start at the very beginning. How does the idea of a trip usually come up? Well, often one person suggests it. Maybe you're sitting at home, it's been a stressful week, and someone says, you know what? We should take a trip somewhere. Or maybe you're more specific, like, hey, I was thinking we should go to the beach this summer. That's how it starts, just a simple suggestion. And the other person might respond with excitement, like, oh yeah, that sounds amazing. Where should we go? Or they might be cautious, like, that could be nice, but we need to check our budget first. See how natural that is? It's just two people talking.
Right. And that initial conversation is so important because you're gauging interest, seeing if you're both on the same page. And here's a common phrase couples use when they're thinking about taking a trip. We need a vacation, or we need to get away for a bit. The word get away is really common. It means to escape from your normal routine, your daily stress, your work. So you might say, I really need to get away from work for a while. And your partner might agree and say, yeah, let's plan something. What are you thinking? And then you start brainstorming ideas together.
Exactly. And brainstorming is a big part of the planning process. You're throwing out ideas, discussing options, seeing what sounds good. You might say, what about going to the mountains? And your girlfriend might say, I was thinking more like a city trip, maybe New York or Chicago. And then you're having this back and forth conversation where you're exploring possibilities. You could say, I've always wanted to visit Portugal, or what do you think about going somewhere warm? These are all natural ways to suggest destinations, and it's totally fine to have different ideas at first. That's normal.
Yeah, and that's where compromise comes in, which is a huge part of relationships anyway. Maybe one person wants adventure and the other wants relaxation, so you talk it through. You might say, okay, what if we find a place where we can do both? Like, we could go hiking during the day and relax by the pool in the evening. Or you might take turns, like, how about we do a beach trip this time and next time we'll go somewhere you want to go? These are the kinds of conversations real couples have. It's all about finding something you'll both enjoy.
Perfect. And once you've agreed on a general idea, like, okay, we're going to take a beach vacation, then you get into the details. And this is where a lot of practical vocabulary comes in. First, you need to talk about timing. When are you going? You might say, when are you free? Or when can you take time off work? And your partner might check their calendar and say, I could probably get away in July, or how about the first week of August? So you're coordinating schedules, finding dates that work for both of you.
Right. And then you need to talk about how long you'll be gone. You might ask, how many days should we go for? And your partner might say, I can only take 3 days off, or let's do a full week if we can. And here's a common phrase, long weekend. That means taking a Friday or Monday off, so you have 3 or 4 days total. So you might say, should we just do a long weekend, or do you want to take a whole week? And you're deciding together based on your schedules and your budget.
Good point about budget, because that's a huge part of planning. You need to talk about money, and couples have different ways of discussing this. Some are very direct, like, how much can we afford to spend? Others are more casual, like, let's try to keep it cheap, or let's not go crazy with spending. You might say, I think we should set a budget of around $2,000, or let's try to find some good deals. And your partner might agree or suggest something different. The key is being honest and realistic about what you can afford.
Exactly. And when you're looking at options, you'll have conversations about flights and hotels. You might say, I found some flights for $300 round trip. Does that work? And your partner might say, yeah, that's good, book it. Or they might say, let me check if I can find something cheaper. And with hotels, you might ask, should we get a nice hotel or just something basic? Or do you want to stay right in the city center or somewhere quieter? These are the decisions you make together, weighing the pros and cons.
Yeah, and here's a phrase that comes up a lot. Let's just go for it. That means stop overthinking, let's just make the decision and book it. So you might be looking at hotels for an hour, comparing prices, and finally one of you says, you know what, this one looks good. Let's just go for it. And the other person might agree. Yeah, you're right, let's do it. It's a way of pushing past indecision and actually taking action. And honestly, sometimes you just need to make a decision and move forward, or you'll never actually book the trip.
So true. And once you've booked the main things, flights and accommodation, then you start thinking about what you'll do on the trip. And this is where it gets really fun. You might say, what do you want to do when we're there? And your partner might have ideas, like, I definitely want to try the local food, or I want to visit that famous museum. And you can agree or suggest other things, like, that sounds good, and maybe we could also do a boat tour. You're building an itinerary together, deciding how you want to spend your time.
Right, and some couples like to plan everything in detail, while others prefer to be spontaneous, so you might have a conversation about that. One person might say, should we book all our activities now, or should we just see how we feel when we get there? And the other might say, I think we should at least book the main things and leave some free time for exploring. That's a good compromise. And here's a useful phrase, play it by ear. That means you'll decide in the moment based on how you feel. Like, let's play it by ear and see what we're in the mood for.
I love that phrase. It's so casual and natural. Okay, so let's say you've done all the planning, you've booked everything, and now the trip is coming up. What kind of conversations happen in the days before you leave? Well, you start thinking about packing. One of you might say, I should start packing soon, or what are you bringing? And the other might say, I don't know, I'll probably pack the night before. And then there's always the question, are we checking bags or just doing carry-on? These are typical pre-trip conversations. Very practical, very real.
Yeah, and packing conversations can be funny because couples often have different packing styles. One person might be very organized, packing days in advance with a list. The other might throw everything in a suitcase at the last minute. So you might hear, did you pack your charger? Or don't forget your toothbrush? Or do we need to bring sunscreen or can we buy it there? These little reminders and questions are so common, and honestly, there's usually at least one thing someone forgets, so these conversations are important.
So true. And then there's the excitement building as the trip gets closer. You might say to each other, I can't wait for this trip, or only 3 more days, or I'm so ready to relax. And your partner might share that excitement, like, me too, this is going to be amazing. There's this anticipation and positive energy. And on the day you're leaving, you might say, are you ready to go? Or did you lock the door? Or do we have everything? Just making sure you're all set before you head to the airport.
Perfect. Now let's talk about actually being on the trip, because that's where a lot of great everyday English happens. Let's say you've arrived at your destination. You've checked into your hotel. What's the first thing you might say? Maybe you walk into the room and say, wow, this room is nice. Or the view is beautiful. You're reacting to your surroundings. And your girlfriend might agree. Yeah, I love it. Or she might point something out, like, look, there's a balcony. You're sharing the experience together, commenting on what you see.
Right. And then you start settling in. One of you might say, I'm going to take a quick shower, or let me just unpack a few things. And the other might say, okay, I'll check out the hotel info and see what's nearby. And once you're both ready, you start thinking about what to do first. You might ask, are you hungry? Should we get some food? Or do you want to walk around and explore a bit? You're checking in with each other, seeing what the other person wants, making decisions together.
Exactly. And food is a big topic when you're traveling. You're constantly talking about what to eat. You might say, what are you in the mood for? And your partner might say, I don't know. What about you? And then you both laugh because neither of you can decide. So you might suggest, let's just walk around and see what we find. Or one of you might have a specific craving, like, I really want pizza, or I want to try the seafood here. And the other person either agrees or suggests something else. It's all negotiation and compromise.
Yeah, and here's a phrase that comes up a lot: whatever you want. Like if your boyfriend asks, where do you want to eat? You might say, I don't care, whatever you want. And he might say the same thing back. No, you pick, whatever you want. And then you're both being polite, but also not helping to make the decision. So eventually, someone has to just choose. But that back and forth is so typical of couples. You're both trying to be accommodating, make sure the other person is happy.
Yeah, that's so accurate. And once you're at a restaurant, you have conversations about the menu. You might say, what are you getting? And your girlfriend might say, I'm thinking about the pasta. What about you? And you might say, the steak sounds good. And then you might share, like, do you want to split an appetizer? Or should we get dessert? Sharing food is really common when couples eat together. It's a way to try more things and enjoy the meal together.
Absolutely. And throughout the trip, you're constantly asking each other questions and checking in. Like, are you having fun? Or how are you feeling? Or are you tired? These little check-ins show that you care about the other person's experience. And if one person seems quiet or off, the other might ask, is everything okay? Or what's wrong? Communication is so important, especially when you're traveling, because you're together constantly and you want to make sure you're both enjoying it.
Right. And sometimes there are little disagreements or moments of stress. Maybe you get lost or you miss a bus or the weather is bad, and you have to work through it together. One person might be frustrated and say, this is so annoying. And the other might try to stay positive, like, it's okay, we'll figure it out, or let's just laugh about it. And that's part of traveling as a couple, dealing with unexpected things and supporting each other. The way you handle those moments says a lot about your relationship.
So true. And there are also those really sweet moments when you're just enjoying each other's company. Maybe you're watching the sunset together and one of you says, this is beautiful. And the other says, I'm so glad we did this. Or you're lying on the beach and someone says, this is exactly what I needed. These moments of appreciation and gratitude are so important. You're not just experiencing the place, you're experiencing it together. And that makes it special. And expressing that to each other strengthens your connection.
Beautiful. And let's talk about some specific activities you might do together and how you'd talk about them. Let's say you're going sightseeing. You might say, should we go see the Eiffel Tower today? And your partner might say, yeah, let's do that in the morning before it gets too crowded. Or if you're at a museum, you might point something out like, look at this painting, it's incredible. And your partner might agree or share their own observation. You're sharing the experience, talking about what you're seeing, learning together.
Right. And if you're doing something more active, like hiking or swimming, you might encourage each other. Like, come on, we're almost at the top. Or, you can do it. And when you reach the goal, you celebrate together. We made it. Or, look at this view. It was totally worth it. And if one person is struggling, the other might offer support. Do you need a break? Or, we can take it slow. There's no rush. You're a team looking out for each other, making sure you're both okay.
Exactly. And in the evenings, you might have conversations about how the day went. Maybe you're back at the hotel getting ready for dinner, and one of you says, today was so fun. What was your favorite part? And the other might think about it and say, I loved the boat ride. What about you? And you're reflecting on the day together, sharing your highlights. It's a nice way to connect and remember the experiences you've had. And you might also plan for the next day, like, what should we do tomorrow?
Yeah, and those evening conversations are so nice. You're winding down, relaxing, talking about the day, and you might also just have casual conversations about random things, because that's what couples do. You might be lying in bed and start talking about something completely unrelated to the trip, like, I was thinking about what we should do when we get back, or did I tell you about that funny thing that happened at work? Travel gives you time to just be together without all the usual distractions, so you end up having these long, wandering conversations.
So true. And let's talk about taking photos, because that's a huge part of traveling now. You're constantly taking pictures of the places you visit, the food you eat, and of course, each other. You might say, can you take a picture of me here? And your girlfriend might say, yeah, stand over there, smile. Or you might take selfies together, like, let's get a selfie with this view. And you're documenting the trip, creating memories. And sometimes you might disagree about photos, like, do we need to take another one? But it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, the photo negotiations are real, and social media plays a role too. You might ask, should I post this, or does this caption sound okay? And your partner might give input or not really care, like, yeah, it's fine, post whatever you want. But creating those memories and sharing them is part of the modern travel experience. And years later, you'll look back at those photos and remember the trip, remember how you felt, remember the conversations you had, so it's worth it.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about towards the end of the trip, when you're getting ready to go home. There's often a bittersweet feeling. You might say, I don't want to leave yet, or this went by so fast. And your partner might feel the same way. I know, I wish we could stay longer. But you also might be starting to miss home, like, I'm kind of ready to sleep in my own bed, or I miss our cat. And you start thinking about the return journey. What time is our flight tomorrow? Or we should pack tonight so we're not rushing in the morning.
Right, and packing to go home is always interesting because now you have souvenirs and maybe your suitcase is more full. You might say, I don't think everything is going to fit. Or, did you buy a lot of stuff? And you're trying to organize everything, make sure you're not forgetting anything. And there's often that last-minute check. Did we leave anything in the bathroom? Or check under the bed? You want to make sure you have everything before you leave the hotel for the last time.
Yeah, and on the journey home, you might have conversations about the trip as a whole. Like, that was such a great trip. Or, we should do this more often. And you might talk about your favorite moments. I loved when we went to that little restaurant. Or, the best part was definitely the sunset on the beach. You're processing the experience together, cementing those memories. And you might also start thinking about future trips. where should we go next time? Or, I'd love to come back here someday.
Exactly. And once you're home, you're settling back into normal life, but you're still talking about the trip. You might show photos to friends or family. Look at this place we went to. And when people ask, how was your trip? You can say, it was amazing. We had such a good time. And you and your partner might have inside jokes or references from the trip that only you two understand. Those shared experiences become part of your relationship story. They're things you'll remember and talk about for years.
Beautiful. And I think what we've covered here is really the natural flow of how couples communicate when planning and enjoying a trip together. From that first suggestion, we should take a trip, all the way through the planning, the excitement, being on the trip, and coming home, and all the little conversations in between about food, about what to do, about how you're feeling, about photos, about everything. It's real, authentic English that you can use in your own relationships. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, these phrases are useful for traveling with friends or family too. So true. And let's talk about taking photos, because that's a huge part of traveling now. You're constantly taking pictures of the places you visit, the food you eat, and of course, each other. You might say, "Can you take a picture of me here?" And your girlfriend might say, "Yeah, stand over there, smile." Or you might take selfies together, like, "Let's get a selfie with this view." And you're documenting the trip, creating memories. And sometimes you might disagree about photos, like, "Do we need to take another one?" But it's all part of the fun.
Yeah, the photo negotiations are real. And social media plays a role too. You might ask, should I post this? Or does this caption sound okay? And your partner might give input or not really care. Like, yeah, it's fine, post whatever you want. But creating those memories and sharing them is part of the modern travel experience. And years later, you'll look back at those photos and remember the trip. Remember how you felt, remember the conversations you had, so it's worth it.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about towards the end of the trip, when you're getting ready to go home. There's often a bittersweet feeling. You might say, "I don't want to leave yet," or "This went by so fast." And your partner might feel the same way. "I know, I wish we could stay longer." But you also might be starting to miss home, like, "I'm kind of ready to sleep in my own bed," or "I miss our cat." And you start thinking about the return journey. What time is our flight tomorrow? Or, "We should pack tonight so we're not rushing in the morning."
Right, and packing to go home is always interesting because now you have souvenirs and maybe your suitcase is more full. You might say, I don't think everything is going to fit. Or, did you buy a lot of stuff? And you're trying to organize everything, make sure you're not forgetting anything. And there's often that last-minute check. Did we leave anything in the bathroom? Or check under the bed. You want to make sure you have everything before you leave the hotel for the last time.
Yeah, and on the journey home, you might have conversations about the trip as a whole. Like, "That was such a great trip," or "We should do this more often." And you might talk about your favorite moments. "I loved when we went to that little restaurant," or "The best part was definitely the sunset on the beach." You're processing the experience together, cementing those memories. And you might also start thinking about future trips. "Where should we go next time?" Or, "I'd love to come back here someday."
Exactly. And once you're home, you're settling back into normal life, but you're still talking about the trip. You might show photos to friends or family. Look at this place we went to. And when people ask, how was your trip? You can say, it was amazing. We had such a good time. And you and your partner might have inside jokes or references from the trip that only you two understand. Those shared experiences become part of your relationship story. They're things you'll remember and talk about for years.
Beautiful. And I think what we've covered here is really the natural flow of how couples communicate when planning and enjoying a trip together. From that first suggestion, "We should take a trip," all the way through the planning, the excitement, being on the trip, and coming home, and all the little conversations in between about food, about what to do, about how you're feeling, about photos, about everything. It's real, authentic English that you can use in your own relationships. And even if you're not in a relationship right now, these phrases are useful for traveling with friends or family too.
Absolutely. And the key thing to remember is that couple communication is about checking in with each other, compromising, making decisions together, and sharing experiences. You're constantly asking questions like, "What do you want to do?" or "How are you feeling?" or "What do you think?" And you're expressing your own preferences. "I'd like to," or "I want to," or "I'm in the mood for." It's collaborative. Your partners working together to create a good experience for both of you. And that requires communication, patience, and kindness.
Well said. And let's do a quick recap of some key phrases we've covered. For suggesting a trip, we should take a trip. We need to get away. What about going to? For planning, when are you free? How much can we spend? Let's book it. Let's just go for it. For being on the trip, what are you in the mood for? Are you having fun? This is beautiful. Let's take a picture. For dealing with challenges, it's okay, we'll figure it out. Let's just laugh about it. And for reflecting, today was so fun. What was your favorite part? I don't want to leave yet.
Perfect summary. And all of these phrases are simple, natural, and useful. You don't need complicated vocabulary to have these conversations. You just need to be genuine, communicate clearly, and care about the other person's experience. That's what makes travel with a partner so special. You're creating memories together, navigating challenges together, and enjoying life together. And the English you use in those situations is just a tool to facilitate that connection. So practice these phrases, use them in your own trips, and enjoy the experience of exploring the world with someone you care about.
Couldn't have said it better, Emily. And you know what? We want to encourage all of you to actually use these phrases. If you're planning a trip with your partner, use the planning phrases we taught you. If you're on a trip right now, practice the check-in questions and sharing observations. If you're reminiscing about a past trip, use those reflection phrases. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And remember, communication is the foundation of any good relationship, and being able to express yourself clearly in English will help you connect with your partner on a deeper level.
Exactly, Joe. And we hope this lesson has been helpful and inspiring. Maybe it's even motivated you to plan a trip with your special someone. Travel is one of the best ways to create memories, strengthen your relationship, and practice your English all at the same time. And if you found this lesson useful, we'd really appreciate it if you'd give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from it. And hey, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit that subscribe button. We're creating practical, real-life English lessons just like this one all the time. We want to help you speak English naturally and confidently in every situation. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our community. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Safe travels, everyone!